Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some of you and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media is signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. I'm doing this by request, to be honest, because she recorded this about 3 weeks ago. And I'm talking about Ayana. Now, she calls herself Goddess Ayana. I'm not allowed to call a human being a god, not even in the name of pro-Blackness, because black power and blasphemy don't go together. And according to the older pro-blacks, it never did. So I'm not going to go for this blasphemy, thinking that's going to somehow uplift black people because she's calling herself a goddess or divine stargate. And that's part of the problem. That's a very free-floating spirituality. And a lot of people say, well, yeah, I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. And she's one of those. And what that means is she doesn't want any hard and fast rules by which she must live that go against any human instinct of either laziness, possessiveness, or lust. Or let's say greed. Laziness, greed, or lust. She don't want anything that goes against that, unless it goes against the men's lust for the benefit of the women. Now that's okay. See, what she was pretty much saying is, in her video about men complaining because women want these jailbirds, is that you're simply not alpha enough in many cases to attract women, and you're just upset, and that's why you're complaining. It's not anything wrong with them. I don't know if she's the same one that said that black men need to stop coming. I'm not sure if that's her or not, but they certainly looked alike. I remember years ago, a lady that was on that stuff who was pro-polygamy, but she sat up and said that black men needed to stop coming. And when I'm talking C-U-M, I kid you not. So she was sitting up here and saying this, and then if it's the same one, the same lady, then she's not making any sense. So she's sitting up here and telling us that, in a nutshell, you need to just deal with the fact that you're not alpha enough, and that makes you unattractive. And you have no right, and you should never at any point complain about this. So what she's really doing is she's simply trying to use a justification for hybristophilia. And she's trying to use hybristophilia or trying to justify it as though there is some natural, biological, divinely ordained reason for it. She's trying to take women's normal hypergamy or women's attraction to simply men and then use that to justify outright hybristophilia. Because these men that are in prison are not always in prison simply because they're black heterosexual men. That may be why they are targeted. That may even be why they get longer sentences. That may be why they are perceived as a threat in initial encounters with the police. That does have something that has a lot to do with it. But as far as there being a crime, you are a heterosexual black man, we're going to lock you up. That's not the way it works. They got to find something else to get you for. And there are two ways they can do it: physical evidence or eyewitness testimony. These can also be flimsy, and black men can go to jail for a lot longer with a lot less of either one, and with a lot weaker of either one. That is very true. But she's trying to take something that can happen and use that as if to say that in the majority of cases, that's what it is. He's alpha, so he's in jail. You're a beta, and therefore that's why you're out here free and available to us. They done lock the real men away from us because they real men. Well, if that's the case, then that means that this is a race war, because that's what you do in a race war. Now, if we are involved in a race war, if that's really what the case is, and so therefore we're involved in a race war, then are you going to start giving these alphas places to hide? In other words, can I go and avenge Trayvon Martin, take out George Zimmerman, and then come to one of you all for a place to hide where I'll be housed, fed, and screwed? Let's say in a marriage. But screwed, would you do it? Absolutely not. When the feds are looking for me or any other black man and you find out about it, you're not going to hide, especially if they're revolutionaries. Because let's be honest, the pro-black political prisoners that do exist and have been behind bars or are still now behind bars got less support and even sexual selection. They got less of either one from black women as a whole than the idness. The gun-toting, loud-talking, chest-thumping, vegetation-thrashing, King Kong wannabe idness. You didn't talk about that, Mrs. Ayana. Being pro-black means that you actually make long-term decisions that are better for black people. It doesn't mean that you give in to an animalistic hybristophilia that's already been exaggerated because of the environments into which we were forced by those who you rightfully blame for the condition of the world. But I can tell you that we can go around the world, we can see other people that are going through similar things. Countries upped, fup. See, white supremacy has hurt a lot of people, even Eastern Europeans. It has left a lot of damage throughout the world. And you can go into other places where they've had to deal with white supremacy. And the funny thing is that what you don't see is the same level of hybristophilia across the board. They got slums in the Philippines. Then women ain't walking around saying, I want a man that's got bodies. I like killers and drug dealers. They don't walk around saying, well, my man needs to do a bid before he's a real man. So he needs to be locked up away from women and around a bunch of other men in order to prove to you that he's a real man. If he's ready and willing to do something like that, he's already not interested in you. He's interested in them dudes locked up behind bars. And he can try to use that excuse, well, it's just prison. If he gets caught, he can say, well, it's not that I'm that way, it's just prison. No, I'm not buying that. And as one of the older school pro-blacks from the 90s, but who was raised that way from my teens, I'm not going to fall victim to that. And I'm going to tell other black men the same thing. Man, don't y'all listen to her. Gentlemen, if you want to be pro-black, do not let her gas you up. Because when you do something that is revolutionary and strong and pro-black, but it's also illegal, she ain't going to be there to visit you. Because if that was the case, she would have been visiting Jamil Al-Amin. She'd have been trying to marry Jamil Al-Amin. She'd have been trying to get conjugal visits with Jamil Al-Amin. She's not. She's not interested in that. That holds no weight with her. Now, this is a man who actually scared off drug dealers, cleaned up a community and scared off drug dealers. And the cops came along and said, well, you must have murdered some. And truth be told, I don't really know if he did or not. But what many people around the community said was that murder was not necessary. These men, these drug dealers knew that they were going to get caught, and they ran off. That's what was actually said in that neighborhood, because I lived in Atlanta. There was a time when one of the babysitters for my daughter lived in that same part of Atlanta, that western neighborhood. See, you got guys like Doroba bin Wahad. They've actually done some militant things like help to liberate Assata Shakur from jail. And if I'm not going to do stuff like that, then I'm going to fuck the shuck up and start saying that somebody else got to do stuff like that unless they themselves say things that hold them to that standard. So don't let women like this gas you guys up, because what they really want is to be left alone with the ones that will do dirt, but not necessarily out of love for them. That's what that comes down to. And the funny thing is, the ones that don't do that dirt are the ones who they come to later on saying, well, if you a real man, you'll take care of these kids. Someone else's kids, but these kids. There's three types of men amongst us. Thinking men that are not necessarily pro-black as far as anyone knows, although most are privately. Thinking black men that are publicly pro-black. And then you got the idness. As far as these women are concerned, that's what it comes down to. The idness is the one they want to screw. That's the one whose babies they want to have. These cats also are most likely to wind up locked up for some time. Then on top of the idness, or outside of the idness, there is the thinking black man that's not necessarily pro-black. And there's the one that's pro-black. Both of them are the ones that they go to when they're old and heavy and wrinkled and got babies from these idness, and they want the other two to take care of their kids. Guess which one of those two they go to last, though? They go to the one that doesn't seem to have any pro-black leanings outwardly, because they figure they have a higher chance of earning more money. If you're outwardly pro-black and it shows in your appearance, i.e. with the dreads and the mud print shirts, and let's say you own a store selling pro-black and Pan-African paraphernalia, you're the one that they will go to later on. They will eventually make their way to you, but you're the one they go to later. Maybe they don't go to you and ask you, well, you should marry me, but they still want to move in with you. And then when they can find a thinking black man that's doing okay for himself and doesn't seem to be pro-black by first appearance, then they'll drop you for one of them, because that's more for their kids. And more for them, really. Therein lies the truth of the matter. So if you are one of those pro-black militant revolutionaries, these women are not knocking down your door trying to give you some. They're not even knocking down your door trying to feed you or trying to hide you when them people looking for you. They ain't trying to do none of that. You got a better chance of them hiding you out from the police if you just a regular idness than if you were on some pro-black revolutionary militant stuff. She's simply trying to use pro-blackness to justify hybristophilia. If she's talking like it's a war, then that means it's a war. That means she needs to do something that is very risky and involves a lot of sacrifice, and she may have done it. Maybe. But she didn't say anything about that. She simply resorted to the ad hominem replies that even the non-conscious sisters love to use. Well, you just ain't alpha enough. You ain't man enough. You must be gay. You don't like your mama. You don't like women. You don't like black women. Your thing little. That's all it is. All they're really saying is you're not in that very small minority of men that we just want to screw when we see them, and therefore you're bitter. Well, if that is the case, you'd have a right to be. But in most cases, we can respect their right to a preference. It is them trying to escape the consequences of those choices that we can't respect. And them coming to us for a rescue and even lying all throughout their lives to themselves and to us so that they can have a situation in which they can go through a whole phase and a hybristophilic phase, then turn around and find a retirement plan for them and their kids. That's really what we're upset about. I mean, we would look at the soon-to-be Alicia Watkins and say, well, I mean, you don't have to like Boyce Watkins, that's fine. But see, now you're willing to be with him when y'all are old and you done had some other men's kids. And truth be told, most of us are really looking at Boyce and saying, why are you allowing this? I had to say to one of my friends, bro, why this lady ghosted you a long time ago. Y'all was intimate, y'all was fine. All of a sudden, she vanished, and then she turns up later on, reaches out to you when she's unhappily married with 2 kids. Now, she was very good to you while she was with you. I get that. And she's not actually Western born. I get that, too. But she spent most of her time and most of her youth in Ohio and got westernized. And so now here she is ghosting you, running off, marrying some dude out on the West Coast. And then she reaches out to you when she's unhappy. And now she's finally going through the divorce years after reaching out to you. But in the end of it all, she's gone again. She's just gone. I mean, come on, bruh. That's what's out there waiting for you because of the ninja you're not. Now, the other dude was successful. He's not what she really wanted, but he's successful. So she ghosted you for somebody that made more. But he's never there. He's never at home for any of them. You see, this dual mating strategy, you got to understand, gentlemen, is not something to which the pro-black sister, the so-called pro-black, actually the pro-Wack, wannabe pro-black, the no-tep, wannabe hotep, the slow-tep is immune to. She's not immune to that. She will promote that in the name of some kind of Africanity, free-floating spirituality that even many people from the continent would look at and say, you're lost. Fit the guck out of here. They will look at it and say, no, that's not what we do. Stepfathers exist even in the motherland. I know that. But there are expectations that come with it. So anyway, that being said, I think I've said enough. Thank you all for listening. Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout, Aslam, Lakem, and Black, heterosexual, non-select male power, just because they don't like it, and Black patriarchy, until extinction or judgment day.